We're at the conclusion of the Energy Psychology Conference, and I have the pleasure of speaking to
David Feinstein.
And you are a
clinical psychologist.
Now, why should someone come to the conference next year?
Well, this is a conference that's organized around one of the most important developments in psychology right now. PTSD, for instance, has 5 million people in the U.S. It's an epidemic, and we've created 1 million new patients with our wars in the U.S. and many more in Canada. So we're looking for solutions, and what we have is not working, but the early research is showing that somatic therapies really make a difference. That is, therapies that involve the body, because the body is a big part. It's not just in the mind. It's the neural pathways have gotten wired wrong, so that you need to change things at that level, and talk therapy doesn't do it. So energy psychology in particular, the topic of this conference, is probably the best single place you can go for an introduction to this whole new area. And it's I was trained 40 years ago as a psychologist, and this is the most important development that's come along in my 40 years in terms of being able to go right into working at the neurological level in a non-invasive way that makes a real difference. That we are seeing 86% success rates with 6 sessions of this, where cognitive behavior therapy, if they get 40 or 50%, it's really a good finding. So we really have something that's fast, powerful, and effective, and this conference is a place where you can learn all about it.
Now we emphasize traumas or post what do you call it,
PTSD.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, well, PTSD is a condition that people obtain. You're not born with it, but when you go through an experience that is so overwhelming that the regular ways that we deal with distress, with threat, are completely beyond their ability to make a difference, something gets damaged in the brain. And what gets damaged in the brain is the threat response area goes into permanently being on. And so no matter what the person does, they're having dreams about the trauma. They're having flashbacks where they're back in the trauma. They're having an inability to concentrate, their inability to do the job they could do before. Their families break up. They go into drugs and alcohol. It's a really terrible, terrible condition. And it also affects their kids, their spouse. So it's a major health problem. And by being able to go to the neurological core of PTSD, which is what the energy psychology does, because you are working with acupuncture points that send signals directly into the amygdala and the limbic system and the parts of the brain that control all of this. So you have a way to make a difference that most therapists just simply don't have available to them.
So there's new therapies now for this rising concern in stress and traumas, things like that.
Well, it's actually it has a whole range of applications. It's both a clinical technique, but it's also being used as a self-help technique by millions of people. In the month, just a sample month of June 2013, more than 9 million people did a Google search for energy psychology method. So that's an enormous number, because you can use it when you feel anxious before you give a talk, or when you're feeling jealous about something, or the whole garden variety problems that people have in their lives. They can gain emotional self-management. So it's very practical for everybody, but in the hands of a skilled therapist, it can go to these much more complex, serious conditions and make a tremendous difference. So it's both for working with traumatic-based illnesses, as well as improving your sports performance, or improving your ability to whatever you do, to act, any kind of performance. So it's a really exciting development.
Good. So for more information, your website would be?
My website is www.energypsyched. That's energy, P-S-Y-C-H, ed for education.com.